Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second day of the California Veterinary Medical Board meeting. We are now reconvening our open session, and we can start with the establishment of quorum.
Ms. Pulowski,
Here.
Dr. Bradbury, Mr. Espinoza,
Here.
Dr. Maniak,
Here.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Dr. Solcito.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. And so for today, I guess we would start with agenda item 14, which is a presentation from Department of Healthcare Access and Information regarding demographical data collected during renewals. Do we have our guest online?
Good morning.
Here we go. Good morning and welcome.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm joined by my coworker, Elise Ram. Elise is going to be going through the data a little bit more. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the legislature that kind of established kind of the data collection for these visualizations. So if you don't mind, I'm not sure who's driving, but if you could go to the next slide. Perfect. And then one more slide would be great. Excellent. So as you all know, in 2021, we had a bill that went through called AB 133. And what that did was that modified section 502 of the Business and Profession Code that required all of the boards that regulate healing arts licenses to request workforce data from their licensees for future workforce planning. So as the veterinary board is part of the healing arts license, we began collecting a lot of the demographic data, and it modified health and safety code 128051 to begin collecting information on supply, the geographical distribution of the healthcare workers, the diversity of the healthcare workforce, the current and forecasted demand, and the educational capacity. We did make sure that we included a decline to state on all of our questions because we wanted to make sure there was not a barrier to licensure by implementing the survey. We call it a survey, but I think everybody knows that if you've renewed your license digitally, you're given kind of at the end of your process, you're given demographic questions about how you spend your time. What is your FTEs? Do you spend it on research, direct care, things like that? You can go to the next slide here. And then I'm going to pass it over to Elise real quick. Elise, do you have video and audio?
I do.
Perfect. All right. And I'll introduce Elise. She's one of my Elise workforce researchers. She's doing a lot of work on kind of this dashboard. She created it, and I'm happy to pass it over to her to talk about her creation.
Hi, I'm Elise Ram. As Eric said, I work in the Workforce Research and Analytics section here at HCAI, and I was very excited to work on this project for the Vet Board. So I'm going to go quickly into what our survey actually collects, what we kind of do with it, and a little bit of key findings for the dashboard before I go into a quick demo here shortly. So our survey is just collecting licensee data. That consists mainly of demographic data, so race, ethnicity, language, sex, gender, etc. Education information, that's mainly just your initial education at your initial licensure and your current highest education at the time of taking the survey, where you're practicing, and any activity types and hours that our licensees want to report. We use this data to compare the demographics of our licensees to that of the population, which we call concordance. We'll touch base back on that once we hit the dashboard in just a moment. And we monitor the level of geographic access across the state to various license types and services. I know that there are a lot of veterinary deserts across the state in California, so we know that that's a really important thing for you guys in particular. We can move to the next slide, please. So a couple of key findings here for our dashboards. We did note that Black and African Americans and Hispanics are the most underrepresented groups in the statewide veterinary workforce, and that underrepresentation does seem to be present for both groups in nearly every county that had licensees identifying as Black or Hispanic. Representation within each race and ethnicity group seems to be relatively static across age groups, so we don't see a lot of fluctuation. There is a little bit that you'll be able to see once I go through the dashboard demo, but for the most part, they do remain the same regardless of which age group you're looking at within the veterinary workforce. And finally, we were able to collect survey data from 76.5% of all of our veterinary licenses across the state. So that's not just veterinarians, but veterinarian, believe assistants, university vets, all 4 licenses for the licensees here. And those represent nearly 22,000 surveys with a decline to state rate of 12.1% or less, depending on which survey item we're looking at. And if I can steal the share, we can move to the next slide if you'd like, but I can just go straight into our dashboard demo here now. And that will be here. WebEx is really trying. There we go. All right, I think everybody should be able to see my screen. Cool. I see Eric nodding, so I'll take that as a good sign. So this is going to be our first view for our dashboard. This is going to give you regional level details for race and ethnicity across all license types, but we can break down to specific license types within our veterinary licenses. And this will let you filter based on which race and ethnicity you'd like to focus on. So with our Hispanic group, we did note that we had a pretty big discrepancy between our state population and the overall state population for the veterinary workforce. And clicking on these bars does allow us to look at more detailed ethnicity information so we can see what type of ethnicity they identified with specifically beyond just straight Hispanic. And we can do the same thing if we look at Asian, we can see more detailed race information here as well. And same with Black, multiracial, everything. If we move to our concordance view, this will give us a statewide view that can be broken down to the county level. Because we're breaking down at the county level, we aren't able to give you individual license type information just to avoid any de-identification issues, but we can look at each individual county and each individual race and ethnicity. So I'll go ahead and select Hispanic again here just because there's decent representation across the state. Any white counties contain no active licensees that identified as the selected race or ethnicity. Just a quick note. So those are kind of just blank spaces for now. And we do have the option to narrow it down by specific region if you'd like to do a quick focus. So I'll just do a quick focus in on the Inland Empire area. And that just shows you which counties are selected, and then it would narrow down that there. If you click on each county, you'll be able to see which ones in this area are the focus. And with our concordance metrics, apologies there, concordance is going to give you a level of how similar the population of the veterinary members are to the actual county or statewide population. The closer to 1 the value is, the more even those populations are. The higher the value, the more veterinary licenses outnumber or have a higher percentage compared to the actual population. Closer to 0 is the opposite, so the population is outweighing the veterinary pop. Moving to our age group view, this again we can break down by license type as well as region, and this just shows you the percent of each age group that is making up each race or ethnicity. So in this case, 77.5% of our veterinary licensees over 75 identified that they were white, non-Hispanic. And like I said, we do have mostly not a whole lot of fluctuation here until we get to like these last 2 or 3 age groups where the Hispanic group really starts to rise and the white non-Hispanic group starts to fall a bit here, at least for our overall licensees. And finally, we can get into our response rates. So these are just showing the number or the percent of active licensees that were surveyed, as well as the response rates for each item that was used to create this dashboard. We've got our ethnicity and our race because those are 2 separate items on our survey. And we also include employment here. And this is included here without necessarily being represented in the rest of the dash because we only included individuals that said that they were actively working in their field. So we do have technically active licensees that indicated that they were retired or that they were working in a different field that doesn't use their license. We wanted to make sure here to just include the ones that were actually working. We also notably don't have any decline to states for age because we have that for every single licensee, regardless of whether they've taken our survey or not. So we don't have to worry about any declined states there. And that is our dashboard. And Eric and I are happy to take any questions that you may have.
If I could,
I can also, oh yeah.
I just want to add one more thing. So, this dashboard is, we provided this dashboard and kind of the open data that go along with it to DCA. So this dashboard will be living on DCA's website. I don't know the status of that. I haven't gotten an update of it, but I can follow up with my contact at DCA to kind of give me a little bit more of the expected date of publication. But again, we did give a table to them as well to be posted on their open data, so that researchers can go in and kind of like use the data as they see fit. Hopefully they can just play around the dashboard and we've designed it well enough, but there is that option as well. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much for that very enlightening presentation. I guess Dr. Bradbury has some comment.
I was just wondering if you could compare that to, say, the medical licensees, the human medical licensees, like our data as compared to human doctors.
I think if we picked out a specific license and we wanted to compare that, I think we would need to develop kind of the question of what are we trying to ask. But if we decide what we're trying to ask, we can definitely do the comparison between the two. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I don't see anybody, because it's really interesting information. For me, it's something that I probably have to digest well, kind of really looking at the significance of the information, which is going to be very helpful for this board, moving forward. So I thank you guys for, giving us or sharing with us the information that you have. Jessica, do you have anything?
Yeah, and I'll
Andrea.
respond real quick to that. I think, you're right. There's a lot of information in there. And the thing that so last year is when we put out our first dashboards. This is an iteration on those first dashboards where we included a little bit more information in this that we forgot to put in our first round of all the other licenses. So there is a ton of information to digest in here. And I think it's kind of like the first time we're really looking holistically at the workforce. So really being able to paint that picture of what does the vet workforce look like, and how does that compare to the people they're serving. So if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with myself or Elise as you're getting into it. We can do additional demos, explain things. So more than happy to do that.
I just had another thought. I don't know if it would be helpful to you, but I do know that there are some national studies that look at veterinary students, and I feel like this matches their demographics as well. But if anybody who's trying to correlate and determine whether our state is representative of who's graduating versus who we're attracting. I know that data is out there, and I think through the AAVSB they've presented that a couple times. So anyway, I just thought I would mention that to you guys.
So I've got great news for you. Elise is actually working on it. We don't have student enrollment data, but we have graduate data. So we are using iPads data to kind of update our education pathways dashboard for the vet workforce. So that is coming soon. We have 2 additional, and we have languages spoken, and then we have our education pathways. So those are 2 more dashboards that we'll be providing DCA with as well. But I don't have the enrollment data, which is something I've been trying to get. Is more enrollment data for these organizations or schools.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we would like to open the agenda item for public comment. There's nobody in the room right now, so moderator, could you please open up the line for those that are participating remotely?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And so I guess our deep thanks for this presentation, Mr. Newhouser and Ms. Ram. And hopefully we continue collaborating, sharing information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next agenda item is agenda item 15, which is the update, discussion, and possible action regarding AAVSB activities. Do we have Dr. Nunez online already?
Yep.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Nunez.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
I'm going to keep my camera off because I think I have a poor connection, if that's okay. Unless can you hear and see me?
Yes.
All
We
right, I'm
can see you
broadcasting.
and hear you well.
I'm broadcasting from a closet, so I apologize for the background. But I'm Mark Nunez. I'm a member of the board of directors for the AAVSB, the American Association of Veterinary State Boards. Previous member of the California Veterinary Medical Board. And I'm going to give you some information today about our upcoming annual meeting, the nominations for directors at that meeting, proposed bylaws changes, resolutions, and then I'm also going to give you an update on the Colorado VPA issue and some thoughts about changes to our governance policies at AAVSB. The annual meeting is going to be held September 17th through the 19th in Cincinnati, Ohio. The annual meeting and conference brings together member boards to connect, collaborate, educate, and conduct businesses to strengthen the veterinary regulatory community. It's traditionally has been very well attended because the AAVSB funds delegates to attend. So it's a great opportunity for all the member boards from the United States and Canada to come together and talk about the wonderful world of regulation. At that meeting, there's going to be all of the committees and task forces of the AAVSB will meet. That's a great opportunity for them to collaborate, exchange ideas. So many times the different board committees and task force don't know what the other one's doing. And so when you get everyone in the same room together, we can avoid duplication of work and conflict of work that's going on. And many of those committees are open to participants at the conference to sit in and listen to what's going on. The executive directors and registers will be having their summit, which is another opportunity for them to get together and talk about hot topics. Board member training for new delegates. We will be having a president's reception to recognize all the tremendous volunteers that we have. We have so many great volunteers in this association, and it's an opportunity to acknowledge them and thank them for our entertainment on Saturday night. I think it is Friday or Saturday night. We're going to a baseball game. I don't know who's playing, but if you like baseball,
Cincinnati.
yes.
Cincinnati Reds.
Is that the Red Sox, the Packers, Chargers?
Cincinnati. Close. Close enough.
Well, so if you're into that, that's what we're doing. Then there'll be educational sessions, lectures. They're cutting down the number of lectures, but expanding the length of them. So they're all going to be an hour and a half presentation. There'll be 4 sessions. The first session on health and wellness. The second session, crisis media training. I don't have the specific lectures and titles of the talks yet. Session 3, top legal cases by Dale Atkinson. And session 4 is going to be a presentation on avian influenza. You may have heard of that. But and then the exciting part of the meeting is, of course, the business session, delegate assembly, where we will be having election of directors, and that's also where we'll be discussing the proposed changes to the bylaws and the proposed resolutions. Jessica, have all the board members received the nomination package, resolution package, and the bylaws package?
So we have the proposed bylaws and the nominations packages posted online, and they received those a couple weeks ago. However, the proposed resolutions weren't emailed to member boards until yesterday when during the middle of our board meeting. I did forward it to the board members to this morning, but they have not had time to review the proposed resolutions packages.
Okay, I think this is going to be the last meeting of this board. There's not going to be another meeting before the annual conference. So I think what you had proposed is to, I can tell you a little bit about the issues, but I assume that you're going to just authorize your executive committee and those in attendance to make the final decisions. Is that right?
They'll be discussing that after you go through your presentation. We can
Okay.
discuss their options.
Okay, because I don't want to rush you into making decisions now. But so the nomination package for the position of president-elect, there will be 2 candidates or 2 nominees: Sheila Dotson, DVM from Kansas, and myself from California. So it's California, Kansas showdown. The bios and all the information for the candidates are in the nomination report. For director at large, there are 3 open positions available, and then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nominations. Christina Bradbury, DVM from California, Robin Lazaro, RVT from North Carolina, Michael Fander, DVM from Missouri, Ashley Selke, RVT from Indiana, Jessica Sewell, RVT from Georgia. When you are looking at the bios in the package, there are several things that you should be thinking about when choosing a good board member. This is also located in the on the website, but there's just things to think about. 6 key attributes for a good board member. Number 1, the ability to think strategically and analytically and to effectively communicate thoughts and the reasons for them. Number 2, possession of earned respect of other key stakeholder group members. Number 3, the ability to work well with others as a member of a collaborative group, with group discussion making authority and an understanding of the fiduciary duties and loyalty, care, and obedience. Number 4, demonstrate understanding of the difference between oversight and supervision. This brings into play the idea of thinking strategically as opposed to operationally. Number 5, earn a reputation for emotional maturity, personal integrity, and honesty. Number 6, a demonstrated familiarity with the body of knowledge related to both the process for which the group is responsible, as well as the substantive content of the subject area within which decisions and choices will have to be made. So you'll want to take a look at committee experience, experience being on member boards, and all that. You probably won't know these people personally, but you'll have to use your best intuition on whether or not they possess emotional maturity. And then the other thing to think about when casting your votes is what the current composition is of the board and whether or not there's deficiencies that need to be filled in order to have a balanced board. For that, you need to think of the current board member skill set, their key attributes, special skills or experience germane to key strategic initiatives. So if there's a particular topic that's in the news, perhaps related to equine medicine, and there's no equine veterinarians or RVTs on the board, then that's a deficiency that may need to be filled. The other thing to think about to have a balanced board is generational, geographic, gender, cultural, industry, ethnic, or specialty related experience. Because a balanced board is a better board, so that we think of all the challenges and views and opinions and things that can occur with any issue. As you know, most issues, once you really dive into it, really gets complicated. And the more experience on your board, the better. There are other positions that are going to be voted on for the nomination committee. There is one open position. Currently, there's no nominations. So there can be nominations from the floor if anyone is interested in being on the nomination committee. The AAVSP representative to the ICVA, there is one veterinarian position open with 3 nominations. Thomas Feld, DVM from Alabama, Stephen Maniek, DVM from California. Many of you know that nominee. And Carl Salverson, DVM from Wisconsin. I'm not going to give any endorsements, but all the informations and things to think about when making your decisions are available in your board package.
Dr. Nunez, do you happen to know if the vacant position on the nominating committee is if it has to be a veterinarian? Because I noticed the 2 current nominating committee members are executive directors, and I know a lot of these members have specific requirements. I didn't know if that was one of them for this vacancy.
I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
That's okay. I can look it up. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any restrictions for that. But you can look it up. So sorry about that. If there's no further questions about that, I can go into the proposed bylaws, which is on the website. It's been sent out to you. There are 3 proposed bylaws amendments. In the board package, you'll see the location of the bylaws. There's also a copy of the entire bylaws on the website. So the package will tell you the location in the bylaws where the change is being proposed, who is proposed by, and the changes to the bylaws is the way the process goes is that the proposals are reviewed by the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee of the AVSB, and they will give a summary of the change and what their position is. And then also you'll have a position of the board of directors, whether they support or don't support that. That's all in the package. The first proposed bylaws changes from Kentucky. It's a pretty comprehensive uh, review and update and changes of pretty much all sections of the bylaws. This is a lot of work that was done by the Kentucky board, and many of the recommendations are, I think, very wise and insightful. Many of them may require a little bit of thinking on whether or not that's a good idea. It's a bit unorthodox to put together a big, beautiful bylaws changes like this because it's so massive. But it's in there. This is the one where I don't think you'll be able to read it all and make a decision at this meeting. But if anyone can do it, it's this board. That's the first bylaws proposal. The second one is made by, I think it was West Virginia. This is a proposed change. Yeah, the West Virginia Veterinary Medical Board. Changes to the composition of the board of directors. They want to lower the number of DVMs on the board and increase the number of registers, affiliate members, which are the executive directors and registered. The idea is that it's the executive directors and registers that are more familiar with the current topics of the day. Again, you have the summary and position of the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee and the recommendations of the Board of Directors on that one. And the third proposed changes is from the actual Bylaws and Resolutions Committee. That this is part of the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee is doing a complete review of all the bylaws. And this is their first review of one section of the bylaws. That's the section that defines all the committees within the AVSB. So they reviewed all the committees and made some changes to the bylaws. And of course, they recommend their own proposal because they wrote it. And they also have the position of the board of directors on that one. There are there's a section in the Kentucky bylaws that talks about committees as well. This is just a small section of the bylaws, as opposed to what Kentucky's doing, where they just did the whole thing in one fell swoop. But lots of good recommendations to think about in there. Any questions on the bylaws before I move to the resolutions?
I don't think anybody has any questions
Okay.
right now, Dal.
The resolutions are also in your package, and first resolution is from Kentucky. That the AVSB Bylaws and Resolutions Committee. Oh, no, this is a resolution opposing the AAVSB's proposal to expand membership to jurisdictions around the globe. The part of the AVSB strategic goals are to start to become involved in the regulatory efforts globally. And this resolution feels that now is not the time to do that, although there's very interesting issues going on globally. I just recently heard of an issue going on in Spain where they are taking the overuse of antibiotics very seriously, and they've instituted a cures-like reporting system of all antibiotics that are prescribed by veterinarians. So can you imagine having to not only report your controlled drugs through a cures-like system, but also report all the antibiotics you dispense through a cures-like system. Spanish veterinarians are fit to be tied about that one. And lots of developing countries do look for resources when they're forming their regulatory bodies. So I think that there's a lot of good work that can be done. Always there's a question of resources on do we have the resources financially and staff to do such an effort. The second resolution is again by Kentucky, opposing AAVSP endorsement of the veterinary professional associate and mid-level practitioner position. That's the whole issue going on in California. I have some talking points on AAVSP's official position on that, but this is a resolution making it clear that they are not in support of AAVSP supporting it. And third resolution is again from Kentucky, a resolution on the veterinary client-patient relationship. This is a good read. It has a lot of topics related to telemedicine, the establishment of virtual VCPR, that the issue has kind of somewhat mostly been settled in California. We went into it dragging and kicking, but it's a good read. And the fourth resolution is one that was made by the AAVSP Board of Directors. This one mostly is in support of not all veterinary medical boards throughout the country have RVT representatives on their board. And this is a resolution stating that the AAVSP supports having RVTs on your board, especially if you are issuing licenses to them. They should have representation on the board. Board of directors obviously support that position because we made it. It's interesting that the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee have no position on it. They don't oppose it or support it. But it's in your package. And that is it for the resolutions. In regards to the veterinary professional associate position that the people of Colorado have voted to establish, the AAVSB has issued some talking points on that. The board of directors' purpose is to support its members and follow its mission to ensure public and animal protection. And here's a brief history. Following an AAVSB survey of the profession regarding the creation of a mid-level veterinary practitioner, the board of directors voted on June 6, 2024, not to take an active role in supporting the development of a mid-level practitioner. Many of you remember that survey that went out. Once Proposition 129 was passed by the electorate of Colorado in November of 2024, creating a veterinary practitioner associate, the board of directors voted to support the Colorado State Board of Veterinary Medicine in ensuring a VPA is qualified to perform the scope of practice defined by Colorado. So once the Colorado board was made aware that this position now exists, the AVSB stepped in to support that member board to create the standards. In June 2025, the board of directors voted to fund the initial phases relating to the creation of an examination designed to assess the competency of a VPA in consultation with the Colorado State Board of Veterinary Medicine and its authority to recognize a uniform national assessment instrument and national credentiating organization. So Colorado is a little bit unique in the way that they grant a license to, I'll start with RVTs. They have to pass an examination, and then they have to be credentialed by a credentialing organization. And that organization looks at their education, their clinical experience, their passing of an examination, and they will say this person is credentialed to be issued a license as an RVT, and then the Veterinary Medical Board of Colorado will issue that license. They're going to use that same process for the BPAs. And so not only do they need to have an examination created, but they also need to have a credentialing organization. There's currently a credentialing organization for the RVTs. They don't automatically become the ones that credential the VPAs. They definitely want to be the ones that do that as well. So they'll have two groups that they'll be credentialing. And the official decision to grant the contract for developing the examination has not been made, but they're at a point right now where it's been redlined, which means that it's pretty much all but assured that the contract for developing the examination is going to be given to the AAVSB. And at the last board meeting, the board of directors, not unanimously, but voted to fund the initial phase of that, which is the job analysis survey, which then is used to create the examination. They also voted to start to make proposals to be the credentialing organization for the VPAs. That's a separate contract that they are hoping to get. The board of directors noted that any related proposed model regulations would be submitted through the approved process per policy. The board of directors also voted to delay the development of model documents until such a time as the VPA is more uniformly recognized. So although they're making efforts to help Colorado do what they need to do regulatory wise for the VPAs, they're not working on model regulations for our Model Practice Act until a time where it seems like it may be the way that the profession is going. So going back to the resolution that Kentucky had, that they oppose our support of a VPA, AVSB is not supporting a VPA. We're supporting the Board of Veterinary Medicine of Colorado in what they have to do as directed by the people of Colorado. It's a big topic. Does anyone have any questions on that?
I do have a question. So a little confused. So the AAVSB is not supporting Colorado's efforts into creating the mid-level practitioner, but they would like to create the examination body for
Well,
the mid-level practitioner.
yes, it does sound at odds with each statement, but the decision to have this position created was not made by the Colorado Veterinary Medical Board, and I don't think that the Colorado Veterinary Medical Board or the profession welcomed this position. But as we've experienced in California, sometimes laws pass that we don't support, but they pass, and the regulators are the ones that have to make it happen once it's passed. So our position was this position has been created. We have expertise in assuring that these candidates that are going to be granted licenses have the proper education, the proper training, the proper test that is used to assess their competency to ultimately protect the consumer. And of any organization in the country, we believe that we're the best that can do that, because that's what we support, is good regulation to protect the public. So since it's something that they have to do, we feel that we're supporting one of our member boards, Colorado, just like California is one of our member boards, in setting up all that regulation that needs to be done. And the similar argument for the credentialing organization. Again, Colorado is the only state in the nation that has that credentialing organization step. So it's unknown whether or not, if it does start to spread to other states, whether or not they'll just need an exam, or whether or not they'll change their regulations to have a credentialing organization. Personally, I don't see why they would, but you never know. No one can predict the future, but that's where we're at right now.
Hi, Dr. Nunez.
Hello.
I was just wondering if if the board had a discussion on how it was that they were going to be investigating job requirements and activities when there isn't a current position like this.
Yeah, it's a good point. How do you do the job analysis survey when there are no VPAs out there? So I don't know how they're going to do it, but there's always a first exam. But it's gonna follow, the creation of the examination is gonna follow the same process that the creation of our veterinary exams are and our RVT exams are. Find out what's happening, or what you have to look at the scope of practice, what's being proposed that these VPAs will be doing, and perhaps in a survey saying, if you had a person that can do all these tasks, what knowledge or experience would you expect them to possess in order to do these duties? So I guess the first survey will have to be speculative. If a person is in your hospital that's allowed to do this set of duties, what would you expect them to know?
Got it. Is the statute that in Colorado, is it prescriptive, or was it pretty vague?
As far as scope of practice,
Duties, but yeah.
that hasn't been hashed out yet. So it's not decided. It's there's a concept of a plan, but the exact scope of practice hasn't been written out. But it does include, I believe it does include spays and neuters.
Dr. Nunez, thank you so much for giving this overview. And I apologize that I wasn't able to attend the board of directors meeting yesterday since we had our board meeting. I'm curious on that, to piggyback on Dr. Bradbury's question and about the job analysis and the challenge that you're going to face with doing job analysis when there's no one actually doing the job. And you had said that they're going to do a survey, and it likely would have to be speculative of what they could do, I guess, except the scope of practice is not defined. But I was just curious, so when they send that out, did they talk it out yesterday about who they're going to send that out to? Would it just be Colorado?
Yes,
Okay. And it would be Colorado veterinarians?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, fun times. Um, the last point, there's going to be a president's update that's going to be sent out to member boards within the next couple of months that is going to be bringing up the discussion of governance. At our February meeting, we had talked about governance and how board of directors are elected. During that meeting, the board engaged in out-of-the-box strategic discussion on governance. Through the discussion, the conversation focused, among other things, the roles and responsibilities of the nomination committee and on the nomination and election process in general. Similarities and differences between a competency-based board, a constituency-based board, and a board composed of a balance between the two. So currently, it's an election process where member boards put up candidates and they're elected to the position. Is that producing the best board for governance, or should the nomination committee take a more active role in actively recruiting nominees that serve what the current board of directors or the association needs? That'd be more like the competency-based idea of the board. Nothing's been written in stone about how that's gonna pan out, but the board of directors is very much interested in hearing feedback from the members on governance issues, on how to produce the best board of directors, because the board of directors is very aware that there have been some trust issues between the board of directors and the member boards, and really want to address it. And I think this is an excellent outreach from our current board president, Dr. Richardson, to get feedback. But if you don't provide that feedback, then you can't complain about the decisions that are made. So keep a close eye out for that survey, and really, we want to hear from you on how can we be better as a board and as an association, because we care about each and every one of our member boards. And that is my report. Any questions?
I just wanted to add, and I apologize that because we should have done this during the VPA discussion. To let the members know and really thank Dr. Richardson because he is making a point to speak with every single committee of the AABSB to re-emphasize the fact that they are not supporting the VPAs. They are trying to help Colorado in dealing with the VPA situation there. So he has gone, I'm on a couple committees and he's made the same comments and overview to let everybody know, to try to make it clear that they're not supporting it. I do know they provided significant input in Colorado's regulations. They also are moving forward with the examination and creating the credentialing program for the VPA, but they are constantly repeating that they're not supporting it. So I just wanted to thank Dr. Richardson for making those comments.
So I think we're in a tricky situation because we have a lot of information that came to us this morning because of yesterday, and we need to make some decisions as a board. So I would like to make a motion to direct the board's delegate and alternate delegate to speak with the bylaw and resolution submitters, speak with candidates if possible during the annual conference, and watch the candidate videos when available. And then in addition, direct the board's delegates and alternate delegate to vote on the matters that they believe best fulfill the board's consumer protection mission and the mission of the AAVPSB.
I guess I might add, when you're making a decision on who to vote for president-elect, you'll give my candidacy serious consideration. I will say that.
I second the motion.
Okay, so we would like to open this up for public comment. Nobody's in the room, so moderator, can you please open up for public comment for folks participating online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing star 3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. So I guess we proceed with the
vote.
vote.
Ms. Pulaski?
Yes.
Dr. Bradbury?
Yes.
Mr. Espinoza?
Yes.
Dr. Maniak?
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Solocito?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nunez, for a very enlightening update.
You're welcome.
And yeah,
Thank you for all that you do.
we definitely will keep your nomination in mind.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm available for questions. Anytime.
Okay,
You have my number.
all right.
All right, take care.
Thank you. So now we move on to the next item. Agenda item 16, which is a presentation from DCA's Office of Information Services on chatbot options for the board's website.
I believe we have Baird Cowan on, who's going to give the presentation. There he is.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Baird Cowan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at DCA, and I'd like to thank you for allowing myself and my compadre, Keith Kuhn. He's our senior web architect here at DCA, who helps all the boards and bureaus with their web sites, their web journeys, and any extra services that we provide to web services. So again, thank you for letting us come here today and talk about our current chatbot journey and our next steps. So I'm gonna go ahead and share a slide deck with you today, talk about where we're currently at, talk about the current status of our efforts, talk about the journey, and then do a quick little demo of a little proof of concept that we put together, leveraging one of the many different services for doing chatbots here in the state of California. And here at DCA, we're just starting that journey. So glad to be able to talk to you guys today about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Everybody can see that. We're good?
This is the moderator. It appears. Oh, wait, there we go. The WebEx was just taking a little bit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. So again, my name is Baird Cowan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at DCA, and I'm here to help you with this journey today. So first of all, I'd like to talk about kind of what we've done here, how web chat has evolved in the last probably 2 or 3 years, as you guys all see on the news and you see in your day-to-day operations of things that you do. Gen AI has kind of taken off throughout the industry, IT industry, and actually through the world. With that, web chat has kind of evolved over the last 2 or 3 years, where it used to be a very basic web chat service on a lot of these different websites, different services that are offered. And those chatbot services now are starting to include Gen AI. And so with that journey, with that change, DCA started looking at different web chat bot services that are available to us through the state and through our different partner vendors that we currently do business with. We looked at, we're currently looking at what we'll demo with you today as an AWS, Amazon Web Services. I should not always use acronyms here, but the AWS chatbot using Bedrock. That's one of the available services that we have. We're also working with Google and CDT on spinning up a Google Cloud infrastructure to start looking at and leveraging Google's offering in a web chat. We're also looking and have had rolled out O365 Copilot Chat throughout DCA. Again, a Gen AI tool. It's a Gen AI tool, Copilot Chat. But we're also looking at leveraging Copilot itself, not just the chat functions, but Copilot itself, and also to do a web chat of the VetMed website. And then last but not least, we have developed this process with AWS on their chatbot in the last 6 months, the CDT, the California Department of Technology, has also created what's called the statewide digital assistant. This is a chatbot or digital assistant tool that leverages all the LLMs, all the different Gen AI services, and is currently being developed and worked on with CDT. And we're kind of like waiting to see how that plays out a little bit. It's maturing. I guess got a demo of some of the features that it has, the statewide digital assistant, about 2 weeks ago, and it looks very encouraging. So we already started down a journey using AWS Web Chatbot, and it's a pretty cost-effective solution. And we're just looking at all our options right now. But today we'll give you a demo of the chatbot from AWS. And with that, I'd like to talk about one thing that we want to try to, with Gen AI and with chatbots and different things throughout this journey in the last couple of years, Executive Order number N1223 from the Governor Newsom, kind of defined how Gen AI is going to be used in the state of California, from services, from how it's how we're held accountable for it, where it gets its data from, how we procure it, how we train staff, and how we have to, as a department, create acceptable use policy, Gen AI policies, and all those different things. So the executive order N1223 kind of started that whole process. Then in 2025, February of this year, the California Department of Technology came out with technology letter 25-01 that defined Gen AI for the state. It kind of combined all the executive orders, Senate Bill 896, which also defines the Gen AI Accountability Act, how we're held accountable for that. Also, Assembly Bill 2013 also provided direction for departments here in the state of California on the public disclosure of data used to training the Gen AI. And then after that, many SAM and SIM manuals got updated. Specifically, Section 4986 was created to kind of lay out all the framework and groundwork for Gen AI. From .7, Section .7 talks about procurements and assessments, which is what we are currently doing in this assessment, this little POC with VetMed and with DCA. It's kind of a little bit of a project and assessment to kind of review the different capabilities of AWS and our POC. And then the next part of the SAM manual that's really pertinent to us and to the Department of Technology and to DGS, the Department of General Services, is the procurement methods for which we go and buy and procure Gen AI. It goes along with the project and assessment, so they have a whole process for which we have to follow as far as procurement for Gen AI. Again, web chat started off as not really Gen AI, but now is evolving, and as we look at these tools, they have a lot of Gen AI built into it, so then we start falling under all these Senate bills and SAM manuals. Next point is point 12, which is a policy acceptable use policy. DCA had to put together not only a Gen AI policy, but DCA's updated IT accessible use policy, which I'd like to proudly announce that both of those policies have been put in place. So it allows us to move forward with these types of efforts when we're looking at Gen AI because we have the policies in place. And then last but not least, I think another important portion of the section of 4986 is section .13, which talks about policy and training on Gen AI at DCA. Also like to please to announce that DCA has went out and educated all of our staff and provided services for those that may have coming on after we did the training on acceptable use of Gen AI for the public sector employees. So all of our staff, I think at this point in time, last time I looked, we were at about 72% across 4,000 users that have taken the Gen AI training. So as we go through this demo today and talk about Gen AI, know that your vet med staff and leadership have all been trained on Gen AI. And so they are very capable of using these tools and stuff. And then last but not least, as part of when we do go to roll out this product or a different product, a Google or a Microsoft, or if we decide to land on the statewide digital assistant, we will have to go through a Gen AI risk assessment. What we'll do is we'll work through the 5305 Gen AI risk assessment. We'll submit that ticket to CDT, and they will sit down with us in a meeting and talk about our use of Gen AI, what data sets it's gathering for, how it's being reviewed, how it's being reviewed by humans. The biggest thing that I've seen with the state of California and the Gen AI is being very careful as to ensuring that it's not grabbing data out on the internet. It's not translating things inappropriately or wrong. We have seen a little bit of models do some weird things when it translates languages. And then also making sure that it's reviewed by a human so that those things that it's being asked are not hallucinations and coming back out in the wrong fashion. So that's the policies and guidelines that we have to follow here at DCA and the vet med has to follow as well. So with that said, before I move on, I'd like to open the door for any questions before I move on and have Keith, Keith Kuhn, our web architect, will kind of go through a chat client review, what we did with AWS, and also to do a quick little demo. So if there's any questions.
Hi, thank you so much for that. I was just wondering, when you say humans reviewing, is that like a random sampling kind of quality control human review, or are they expected to be monitoring everything?
So each of the Keith will go through this with the demo. All the history of the chats that are going on are kept in the system. So what the state of California wants to do is ensure that those questions and answers are questions and answers that the vet med board would actually do. So there is a component of reviewing those questions and answers. The Gen AI tools do go out there and will go out there and assess the website and come up with some generic questions and answers, and it'll help you, nuance on similar questions with the same answers. But it does require, the state of California is requiring some oversight as a human reviewing those questions and making sure that the answers are what vet med would do. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So with that said, I'm going to keep this on my screen and hand it over to Keith Kuhn. Keith, got the first deck up for you.
All right. So like Baird said, one of the biggest features is the responses are restricted to your data and your data only. Those AI hallucinations, when it comes to regulatory agencies like VetMed put us in tremendous risk. We don't want them to ask the question and AI to go, sure, you can do that, when they really can't. So that's probably my favorite feature of this one so far, is it is very restrictive of the responses. The questions, however, can be analyzed by AI to get a close match. So if somebody abbreviates veterinarian to vet, AI will pick that up and still match those together, instead of saying, well, you didn't spell out veterinarian, so we're not going to give you that explicit match. This current system is highly tunable by back office users, to where if there's a response to a question, but there might be 2, 3, 4 different questions that all are going to have the same response, you don't have to have the same question and answer 4 times. You can actually have the answer tied to 4 different questions. So if there's an update to a regulation, you only have to go in and update the response in a single location. Every interaction in the chatbot is logged, and that will be viewable by back office staff. So if you stump the AI, if you ask it a question, it doesn't know what to do, that shows up in a box. And staff can go through and start reviewing those and go, oh, that question's been asked 10 times this month. We should probably come up with a response to that question. Like Baird mentioned, we will be using a small bit of AI to scrape the website, and it will come up with a good sampling of questions and answers from the pages that we select. And all of the answers will be, again, explicit text from your website. So it won't interpret text on the screen and make up its own answer. And of course, it'll be styled to match the color scheme of your website. The demo that you're going to see is red, and there's no red on your website. Now, this is the hard part of this solution, is after the initial seeding, it will only be as good as the staff who maintain it. So this isn't a set it and forget it solution. The analytics have to be looked at on a regular basis, update the questions on a regular basis, changes to the website. You should review the questions to make sure that something wasn't updated that's an answer or a question from the question and answers bank. And I'm going to take control of the screen and demo the chatbot. And that needs to. So here's one of the customization items that we can do. The VetMed bot, I just picked a random thing in the configuration. The introductory text can also be customized. We're going to go ahead and ask it a pretty simple question. As you can see, a nice little response. We can put web pages in there. So if they click on the web page, it will take them in a new window to the page, so they don't actually lose their progress in the chat. So they can come back and forth. They can give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. Those feedbacks are also monitored in the analytics. So they can go, they asked how to file a complaint and we gave them an answer, but they didn't like it and they get a thumbs down. Why did they thumbs down it? You can go in and you can see that, oh, we gave them a broken link, or there was a broken link in the answer. Now I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of the AI analyzing the question. The question that's in the bank is, how do I check the license status of my veterinarian? So I'm going to talk more like a human. Check the status of my vet. And the AI was able to put together enough pieces from what I asked it and matched it to that question. And again, that response is explicit from the answers. And we're going to do one more. And I'm going to copy and paste this. It's too much to type. How can I become a registered veterinary technician? Doesn't know. Well, the question that's in the question bank is, how do I become an RVT? I might not know what RVT is, so I'm gonna spell it out. So now I'm going to go into the actual backend bank here. I'm going to add a second utterance, which is a way to ask the question.
Keith, you want to show that in the screen?
So here's the question and answer. I just added a second way to ask the question. You can add 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I actually don't know if there's a limit to how many questions can be asked to respond to
How do I
this.
become a technician?
And so now if I ask the same question, how do I become a registered veterinary technician? It knows. So it was able to catch it. So this being the back office, acronyms are your enemy because we can't assume that all of our applicants and consumers know what the acronyms mean. So in this question, I probably would have asked it like, I probably would have framed the question like this: How do I become a registered veterinary technician? And in parentheses, put RVT. That's how I would have worded it. Now let's see if it will answer the question. AI picked it up and it picked up that piece was in parentheses and was able to get enough of a match. So now you can ask the question in 2 different fashions and still get responses. And that, tends back to the highly tunable piece, to where it's going to be tunable. And it will still need to be maintained by back office staff to pick up the how do I become a registered veterinary technician? It didn't get a response. Why didn't it get a response? I used an acronym and they asked it spelled out. And that's the end of the demonstration. And I believe we are now on to the last slide of the slide deck.
And thank you, Keith. So I put up the next slide on the slide deck with some questions, but I would like to take one moment and kind of give you an idea of what we did to get to the point where we're at. We used AWS and some of the Bedrock services and some of the other services within AWS to kind of scan a page or sections of the VetMed website. With the tool, we can do the same thing and scan not only certain sections of the website, but the whole website. But then excluding certain sections that may be, I don't know if you have enforcement documents sitting out there or disciplinary documents, we can make sure that the engine doesn't scan those types of documents and generate questions and answers off of those documents as well. So we have the capability of really limiting it just to website information. And then, as the VetMed staff become familiar with it or update it, they can add more questions outside of the information that's on the website, and they can add more answers to those questions. Kind of gives you a little bit more free form. And again, this is our first foray into this services. So AWS was our first one. Google will be the next one, and then Microsoft, and then we will see how the statewide digital assistant plays out. But from this perspective, we really liked what this tool could do and the capabilities that we see. So with that said, I'd like to open the door for any questions.
All right. Thank you so much. This is really very exciting. I do have a question actually for Jessica. So in this process, do we have like a dedicated staff that works with their team?
So it was reported yesterday about a reclassification of a position for a data analyst position that will help with all of our reports, our SPRE system. They'll be the dedicated person mainly responsible for monitoring this.
But I guess my concern is, when they're talking about having a person reviewing all these questions, so is the person dedicated to do this in a position to analyze those questions?
They will be, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Dr. Maniak, you have a comment?
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in, demonstrating the chatbot today. I have a quick question. In terms of the chatbot, is it going to be a tree-like structure in terms of questions and answers where based on the answer, there's another question that comes out? What I'm thinking in regards to like the RVT, we have the multiple different ways of getting to becoming an RVT. And so it would be helpful if, there's a question of, well, what is your current experience in the veterinary field so that it's able to push to which method of getting to RVT. Does that make sense? Anyone?
It does. The AWS chatbot does have that capability to where you can guide them down a path to where they ask, how do I become an RVT? It can respond with a question. And again, it needs the canned responses. So it won't be a free form. It'll be, how many years of experience do you have? 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 plus. You click that and it can take you to yet another question, or say, thank you for that information. Here's the section of the website that you want to go visit that explains the application process. Or if there's a 3-year minimum experience and they select 1 to 3, it can tell them, well, we're sorry, you don't meet the requirements. You can go here to review the rest of the requirements, but it can respond to a question with a question.
Thank you.
Hey Baird, hi Keith. Just curious, will things like grammar and punctuation trip the bot up? Like if someone, just thinking about the way people type, like and we're talking about RVT a lot here. So if someone didn't capitalize RVT, would it think it's a typo? Would it be able to track that back to our acronym on the website?
It does, and that's the advantage to using the Bedrock and AI components in analyzing the questions. I typed it like my sons would text me. Where are you at? Is in the letter R and the letter U. It picks those pieces up.
Awesome, thank you.
So when we, thank you guys for presenting this, and obviously there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and I appreciate that. My question is actually for Jessica and Matt, I guess. So when we were thinking about, or when we suggested potentially developing a chatbot or something on the website, it was to help with communication with the public and stakeholders who have been calling and having trouble getting through and emailing and stuff. And part of the reason we were having that issue with communication was staffing. And now we're creating almost a position to help with this. Is this going to help with the workload and or, communication? I mean, I think the chatbot will for sure when people go to the website, but the workload.
Yeah, so a few things. The board's strategic plan objective is what started these conversations to see, and Bear, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any other board right now who's looking at chatbots. So I thank DCA for really hearing our strategic plan objective and helping us fulfill it. To be clear, the data analyst position was not created for this, but we do feel like given the workload the data analyst is going to have, they can absorb this workload as well. So we are not concerned about any workload to maintain it. I do think that it's going to cut down on calls with a more outreach we do about this availability of the chatbot. I think it's going to help quite a bit.
I also think that this is the future. So I think it's important that we're getting ahead of it. So I think it's very, look at the conversation we had yesterday. This is where we are going. And so I think that it's a great question because I too have the same question, is it going to help with staff calls? And I think it should, because the first thing people do is they want to go to technology. They don't want to actually pick up the phone and talk to anybody. They would rather search. And so if we can be able to get ahead and do the things that people want to do, then let's save time for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I am all for this. I just wondered what your, even if it did have an impact, I think it would be worth doing. And then maybe we can put something on the answering machine or our message
Onto-
about directing people to it.
I guess for me, again, thank you guys for coming in and presenting this. This is really exciting. And for my own interest, I guess, can you give us like a timeline of like how long this is gonna take for us to make it functional?
So yeah, I can, can you still hear me? We're good? Yep. Okay. So we started this journey, with Jessica, like she said earlier, no other boards or bureaus are doing this here at DCA. So you guys were our first, first foray into this, and we thought VetMed would be a good place to start. From a IT perspective and a POC perspective, we're very close to being able to start working with Jessica and her team and on building this out, putting it on the website, putting on our development servers first, playing with it, getting used to it. So I see in the next 90 days, we'd be working on doing some of that work. But we're also kind of working on other efforts, looking at other products, right? This one looks good, it looks great, but we want to take the time and go out and look at what Google has to offer and what Microsoft has to offer, and also what the state of California's statewide digital assistant will do, right? That one is going to leverage all the large language models across ChatGPT, Microsoft, Google, all of them, and it may be something that as they develop that out, may be the best of breed. But I see probably, we talk with Jessica and with you guys as well. We could probably use this as an interim, a first step into it, get our feet wet with it. And again, in the next probably 90 to 100 days, it really depends upon the staffing, right? Getting the staff involved, getting some time slated out. But we're close. We've worked on this for probably about 8 months off and on to get it to the point where it is today. And part of that delay was, the state of California is evolving on its Gen AI, what regulations we have to do, what requirements we have to do, what kind of projects we have to do. And so again, we're there. We're ready to go. We just have to work with your VetMed team and board to make sure that it is something that can be used and leveraged and done day to day. We don't want to put it out there and not have it ready to go, so to speak, from a staffing perspective as well.
That is great. Thank you very much. This is very exciting. Any other comments, questions? I guess that would be it. Thank you so much for the information shared this morning, and we're looking forward to the launching of our chatbot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comment. Public comment.
Oh, we're gonna, so we're opening up the agenda item for public comment. Moderator, can you please open it up for our participants online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
All right, thank you so much. Again, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're moving on to agenda item 18, which is the future agenda items and next meeting dates.
So far we have our normal items we have in October scheduled. We have my EO evaluation coming up again. We have the officer nomination, so keep that in mind. We just recently directed the MDC to look at the condition-specific language for the VCPR and the signature issue as well. So that is, I don't know if they'll be ready for October, but that could be a potential item on the future agenda. And then We also, and then the meeting dates we have for October 15th and 16th, and then all of 2026 is also posted on our website. And
I know that we are going to have to talk about it because of the public comment period, but the MASH comment, I really would like to make sure that that is on the agenda and just the high volume spay neuter. I just really think it's important that we put that on the agenda.
And I think too that would, because they are planning on submitting written public comment for the pending rulemaking itself. So that'll be on there. I don't think it'll be a standalone item, but it'll be part of the discussions to address all of their concerns.
Yeah. And also, last meeting, Dr. Maniak requested a future agenda item to discuss transitioning the profession to requiring electronic medical records. While we can discuss this item in detail here, we are able to discuss this item enough to determine whether it should be placed on a future agenda item. I would like to hear from members if they believe this is something they'd like to see on a future board meeting agenda, or if they would like to delegate it to a future MDC agenda item. Thoughts?
I think it's worth investigating with the MDC. I can see where the pushback is going to be, but I think in this day and age, it is something we should be looking at.
I agree.
I think as much as we've talked about standard of care here, I think this week that I think that's something that it's time we start looking at it.
Every single case just about has a record issue on it. And so I think that's as we have seen, it's a tall order for our staff investigating when the records are so poorly done. And that's why the electronic format, we need to head that direction.
I mean, I agree. I think the challenge is going to come from rural veterinarians and people who are practicing, that don't have, because it requires practice software, which is expensive. So I think that's going to be the challenge, but it is definitely worth looking into.
It's also large animal, right? It's
That's what I'm
gonna,
saying,
yeah, the
rural
rural.
settings and
Well, and I
mobile
thought you were
equine
saying access to
practices
care and all of that too. And so it's everything. It's gonna, that's why I think it's an MDC conversation. It's not, yeah.
Yeah, at the Board of Governors meeting at the CVMA, David Bowie, Dr. Bowie.
Peter,
David Bowie.
Peter Bowie.
Dr. Peter Bowie, actually shared his concern about rural veterinarians and also practices that have been in existence for years that has not transitioned their records, majority of their records, to like electronic. So I guess his concern was maybe starting off with small animal practitioners as compared to like equine and rural practitioners. So it is a very important piece. I think we all see the value of having medical records, not just for the ease of it, for staff, but also generally the practice of medicine, because the electronic records actually can also guide, our practitioners in how they're tracking, like how they're practicing medicine. So I guess this is a very important piece in these times. So
yeah, it just is very expensive for the
correct.
practice management software, and it's almost promoting their business.
Correct. Yeah.
I didn't, the public comment about pharmaceuticals and unfair practices there. I don't know if that's under our purview for us to look at. She had mentioned several I don't know if they were statutes, laws, I don't want to misrepresent them, but several things that in fair business that they were breaking those rules. But I don't know if, as the Vet Med Board, we're in any position to address that.
What I heard from her statement is also the concern that it is a factor in the access to care because it drives up the cost of care, for folks that get services from private practitioners. And so I think in a way it's really also worth discussing and trying to figure out if this is something that maybe our board can collaborate with the business bureau or whatever, right? Because I think it is definitely something that impacts the delivery of services. And that is something that I still see it as consumer protection.
Well, and I think this week, kind of our broad stroke that we've heard is financial access to care as a real coming issue. It's already here, but it's front and center now in front of us. So we have to look at the issues that are leading to those financial access to care problems and address that. It's one part, I think, of the financial access to care. It's a multifaceted issue. And I think it's something that we do have to look at to see where we can make a difference in addressing the issue.
So perhaps the board would like to delegate this to the MDC to research the issue and potentially come up with some recommendations on what it is, if anything, the board can do to assist with the issue.
I agree.
I think that would be a good, first step because we need to be factual about it as well.
Okay.
All right, I have one more thing. Am I on? I don't know if you can, am I on? Yeah, oh, okay, thank you. So I was wondering if we could ask the AVMA to present on their, it's the foreign equivalency program. I feel like a lot of our respondents are for people who have gone that pathway, and it does make me, it causes pause and some concerns for how that pathway is established, and if there's some way we can potentially collaborate with them to help in that process or just to understand it better. But it is a recurring theme in our respondents. And so I don't like bringing it up because it's sort of again, a delicate issue, but I also think it is something we should potentially start having a conversation about.
I would have to agree. As a foreign graduate myself, I will have to say it's a little bit concerning. Again, it's like it's inevitable that when you say, hey, the majority of our respondents seem to be, a majority of them are foreign graduates, I'm lumped into that, and you don't want that because I feel like a majority of the foreign graduates that are practicing are doing good medicine. And I think there's also maybe a need for outreach to foreign medical association because they exist. In fact, that's one of the things that I brought up with one of the delegates at CVMA. I am looking at the room and I'm seeing no real representation of foreign graduates, but I know these individual VMAs exist. And I am just thinking maybe working with CVMA to make sure that they are properly represented so that they are part of the conversations. And also maybe, I don't know if that is something that maybe a board outreach, to the local BMAs. Because I just feel like a lot of the foreign graduates wanted to, practice like good medicine, but there are differences in how trainings are being done, and they tend to resort back to how they train. And in fact, one of the concerns that I have is that ever since that they removed the clinical uh, the evaluation year, because historically, I guess I was one of the last batches of having a required clinical year evaluation at the university. They removed that and replaced it with a clinical proficiency exam. Well, an exam does not really test your, what you call this, like even your ability to communicate with clients. And, though there are a lot of things that are being missed. Somebody can pass an exam, but not be comfortable with actual, client interaction, because I feel like a lot of them, and there's no focus on medical record keeping, so I think, again, I understand the concern, and I guess I also want to represent the foreign veterinary graduates that majority of the foreign graduates are doing good medicine. And if there is an opportunity to assist those that are kind of, falling off the track, then maybe that's something this board can do.
So that was, thank you. And that's why I know it's a delicate subject, but I also feel like there perhaps hasn't been enough guidance from the foreign equivalency program through the ABMA. And that's why I was hoping to possibly either have them present or open some dialogue, something that helps to set these graduates, these veterinarians up for success instead of, the situations that we're seeing, which a lot of times are, they just have not, they don't have the support, the training, whatever it is. But some of it has to come down to the assessment of their skills and their knowledge. And so the fact that we see this, I may have misspoke when saying the majority, but we see enough of the situation to where it has to be a concern, right? And I think the obvious starting place would be the people who are saying it's okay and credentialing people, I mean, I work with foreign graduates every day in this area. There's a lot, and they do a great job, and I love collaborating with them, and they're all very eager to learn more every, it's not, that's not the, I don't think it's the individuals that are the issue. I think it might be some things in the system. Yeah. So that was, I've hesitated to bring this up. But I just think
But I think it's worth discussing, because again, if these are things that are not being brought up, it would just continue on. And I think there's something that we can do to make a difference.
Well, and maybe it's listening to your conversation and your conversation. I think maybe it's identifying not just the evaluation process, but what happens after the evaluation process, in that the support that they get after. So, because like you said, it's maybe the evaluation itself is not great. So AVMA I think that we need to hear from AVMA, but then what happens when they're done? where do they go? And how does that outreach happen? And I think that's really important as well, because they have a knowledge that they were taught, now they're tested on it, but then do they just go back to what they were originally taught because they have no support?
Okay, so there was a lot there, and it sounds like though we want to start with a presentation from AVMA on their foreign equivalency program. And there have been comments about the prevalency of the discipline related to foreign graduates. I would just caution on the verbiage that we use, because a lot of it is anecdotal of what you all have seen recently. Perhaps we could ask for the AVMA presentation, and also our team can research the data that to see if there's any correlation there as well. So we have, where you all have some more factual information to decide the next steps of the issue.
That would be a good start, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, so
Public comment.
now we open it up for public comment, agenda item 18. Moderator, can you please open it up for participants online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you very much.
Pat, you had emailed me about recent issues surrounding these the student loans, and I know you mentioned it to the students as well. So do you want that to be a separate issue, or is the follow-up with the students?
Well,
sufficient?
yes, my thought was maybe if we could hear from the people from the maybe financial aid portion of the vet schools, just to see what the impact is on them. It might be a little too soon in the process. Maybe that's something for some quarters down the road after they've had the ability to see what the impact is, because I think it goes into effect now, and so they probably won't see until, you know, the next application process and put out the financial aid packages. So probably won't be ripe until maybe a year from now is what
Okay.
I'm thinking.
All right. For closed session, and then go into closed session. So it's closed session. You just see it.
Okay, so it sounds like the board has already taken care of all of the open session agenda items for this meeting. The board is going to now reconvene in closed session to continue what it began on agenda item 21 from yesterday. Once closed session is adjourned, the board will reconvene in open session for the purpose of adjourning open session. So because there will be no further open session agenda items after closed session, the board will not be webcasting item 25 just for the purpose to adjourn.
Okay, so I guess now we go into recess of the open session. We will be back. Oh, no. All right, that's it. Recess open session. Thank you.